Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Favor and I'm a lifestyle content creator living in Manitoba, Canada. If this is your first time here, you're definitely on the right channel. Please do want to subscribe so you can join our family. And if you're a returning subscriber, thank you for always coming back when I post new videos. So guys, in this video we're going to be discussing finding accommodation in Canada. When it comes to accommodation in Canada, the first thing you need to decide is if you want to buy or if you want to rent. This video is going to be focused mostly on renting because I have another video about buying a house. So make sure you subscribe if that's the kind of content you're interested in. Anyways, if you want to know everything I have to say, you know what to do. Definitely keep on watching. To rent apartments in Canada is somewhat easy compared to buying, and there are a lot of websites that you can access to help you find accommodation. Kijiji.ca is one of your best bets. You can also use Facebook Marketplace. You can use Renters.ca. There's also ForRent.ca. There's Craigslist, and then there's Padmapper. So yeah, there are a lot of resources that you can find online, and honestly, even if you just Google accommodations in a particular city, you would always see something, right? So yeah, it's not that difficult. But again, it just depends on you and what you're looking for. We all have different preferences and we all want different things, right? So yeah, just go online, go on those websites and narrow down your search. The next thing I'd like to just mention or just throw in is that it's nice for you to get temporary accommodation if you're moving to Canada newly and you don't have somewhere to stay already. This would be a good idea for you just because you don't know how long it's gonna take to get an accommodation. I mean, there would always be places, there are always people that are renting, there would always be a house. The question is, does it work for you, right? Is it what you're looking for, or are you fine staying in that kind of accommodation, right? That's the question, or that's what I think it would be, right? But in terms of whether you find a place, there would always be somewhere, okay? There are places that are always renting, new apartments are being built, so of course there would always be something. The thing is, does it work for you? Is it within your budget? Are you fine living in that neighborhood? Those are the questions, or those are the things that I feel would sort of limit your options, right? But there would always be somewhere for you to rent. So if you're able to figure out your accommodation before moving to Canada, that's perfect, right? So yeah, this video is helpful for someone who's trying to get accommodation before coming to Canada, and also for people in Canada. And honestly, this video is also helpful for people who live in Canada, right? If you're looking for a new place to stay in, this video is also very helpful, right? So yeah, if you're moving into Canada newly, try to get temporary accommodation. You can get Airbnb or a hotel. Those options are always available, and I feel like it would help for someone who isn't sure of where they want to stay in, or you're not sure of the neighborhood, or you just want to see the place before you make your final decision, right? So you can always get a hotel. One thing to have in mind is that most rentals, or most landlords rent their apartments from the 1st to the end of the month. So from the 1st to the 30th, or the 1st to the 31st. So some people might prorate the rent, but some people wouldn't, right? So even if you're moving in on the 15th, some people might give you rent from just the 15th till the end, but some people will still expect you to pay for the whole month. So it's just something to have in mind, and it's something that you can ask your landlord before you make payment, right? So if you're going to be moving and you're not moving in, say on the 1st, or maybe you're coming from outside of Canada and then you're getting here maybe on the 3rd or on the 5th, just have that at the back of your mind that you might still be expected to pay for the full month, right? Again, it's something that you can ask your landlord before you sign your lease, okay? The next thing you need to know is that you'll be expected to sign a lease. The difference is how long your lease is for, right? Most apartments have the 1-year lease. Some of them are month to month, right? So this is something that you need to ask. If you're looking to move sooner, then maybe look for an apartment where you can go on the month-to-month lease, or just look for another kind of short-term accommodation like an Airbnb, right? But if you're fine staying with the place that you got, you feel like, okay, yeah, I can do this and I'm very comfortable with the place, then definitely sign your 1-year lease. I mean, sometimes you're just very desperate, right? And then you sign the 1-year lease even if you're not really sure, right? But yeah, just sign the 1-year lease. After the 1 year, or a few months to the end of the 1 year, they would usually send you another lease agreement, and they expect you to sign. So if you feel like you like the place and you're fine staying there, you can sign for another year, but it's usually a year. If within the 1 year you feel like you want to move out, you can do what we call sublet. So let's say you signed a 1 year lease agreement, and within the 1 year you feel, oh yeah, I don't really like the place and I want to move out. You can do that, but you have to sublet the apartment. What the sublet means is you're finding someone to take over your lease. So let's say you signed a lease from January to December December and sometime in June you're like, oh yeah, I want to move out, right? Your landlord doesn't care pretty much because you signed the lease with your landlord, right? So if you decide to move out, well, you still have to pay your landlord because like you signed the lease that you're going to be there from January to December, right? But if you want to, you know, move out and you don't want to pay your landlord, then you have to sublet the apartment. So when you find someone, they are going to submit an application to your landlord, and then they have to approve them, and then basically they would continue your lease from say like June to December whenever you move, and then they have the option to, you know, sign another lease in December when your lease expires, right? So yeah, you can do that. So if you ever feel like you want to move within your, you know, lease agreement, you know, period, just always have it in mind that you have to sublet, so you have to find someone. And if you decide to move out without, you know, getting a replacement, your landlord still expects you to pay your rent, and honestly you don't want to pay rent, you know, in two places, right? Because it's already so expensive. Another thing to have in mind is you would need to provide some proof of funds or proof of employment. Most apartments have, you know, requirements that they expect, you know, from the, you know, renter or the tenant, right? And sometimes it differs, right? Some apartments expect you to provide a co-signer while some don't. As long as you can provide, you know, proof of funding, you can provide your maybe like offer letter for work, they are fine and they're able to rent to you without having you, you know, provide a co-signer. Whereas some still expect you to get a co-signer even if you're able to show, you know, that you have a job, you know, and you have all this amount of money, right? So it's just different. So these are questions you would need to ask the landlord before you rent, okay? Because you don't want to make a mistake and you don't want to get stuck. The other thing is when it comes to the issue of co-signers, sometimes it just takes longer and it's harder, especially for people that are coming in from outside of Canada, because I mean, some people know people, but not everybody has someone, especially, you know, in that city. So you might even know someone, but they might not be in the city you're staying in, right? So that just makes the whole process a bit complicated. So I would say look for apartments that don't require co-signers, because once you have your proof of funds and you have say an offer letter, or you have someone that can sponsor you, most times it's not that bad. Like I know some people, you know, even if they're not working, but say their parents are the ones sponsoring them, they get, you know, their parents' bank statements, and their parents like send a letter saying that, oh, they're going to sponsor the person and they're going to be responsible for their rent payment. So some landlords accept that, right? So again, just always ask for what options are available to you. Some people, as long as you can provide, you know, your offer letter that, you know, shows how much you earn, you know, you're good, right? And then maybe like bank statements that show you have money, or at least something that shows that money comes in, you're good to go, right? But this is just something to have in mind, okay? You need to provide proof of funds because they want to know that you can pay your rent, right? Some other landlords would go ahead to ask for previous rental history. Again, this applies to people that have lived in Canada for the most part. If you're coming in from outside of Canada, I mean, what rental history do they want to use, or what rental history do they want to track, right? It's just something to have at the back of your mind. So if you're coming in from outside of Canada, just let them know, show them that you have, you know, enough funds, show them your bank statements and all of that, and in most cases that's fine. The next thing I'll be talking about is your budget. You guys, the budget or your budget is very, very important, because your budget determines a whole lot. Like your budget can determine the neighborhood you stay in, or the kind of accommodation that you find or you have access to, okay? You guys, it is very, very important. You know, if you have a certain amount of money, or if you decide that this is how much you can spend on accommodation max, sometimes you might not even be able to get a place all to yourself, right? You might need to find a flatmate, you know, just because, you know, budget, right? So yes, this is something that is very important, and please be realistic, okay? I know for some countries, like for some people that are coming from outside of Canada, they pay their rent, you know, annually, but that's not the case here in Canada, okay? Like your rent is paid monthly. So if they're telling you to pay $1,000 for rent, you guys, well, that $1,000 is $1,000 every month, okay? Not $1,000 for a year, okay? So this is something that I had to put out there as well, because I know in some places, you know, rent is, you know, per year, but no, that's not the case here, okay? Rent is, you know, monthly. Rent is monthly, and the landlords don't hear, you know, I'm coming, or please, like, nah. Most times, most people don't even know who their landlord is. Like, all these things are set up with authorized debit transactions, going out to your account, like, first of the month, like, your money has gone, okay? So that's something that you need to have in mind. Your money has to be there, and you know, most times there's a penalty if they try to draw money from your account and your rent is not there. Hello, please, we don't want extra expenses, so please just always get your rent prepared, you know, for the first of the month, and you know, all of that good stuff. Okay, also when it comes to renting, you can rent a house, you can rent an apartment or a condo. Okay, so in case maybe you're looking for more space or more rooms and you feel like, you know, a 2 or 3 bedroom apartment wouldn't do it, you know, there are houses that you can rent. Of course, you'll probably pay more. Another thing is, when it comes to houses, you know, they might be a little more expensive. Okay, which will lead me to my next point. The next point I'll be discussing is utilities. Okay, it is important for you to find out what utilities are included as part of your rent, or what utilities come with the house. I always advise people to look for apartments or, you know, houses that come with, you know, at least your heat, hydro and water. If not anything, just try to ensure that water and heat are included, because you guys, we live in Manitoba. In fact, we live in Canada, right? And Canada is cold. Okay, so you don't want a situation where in the winter you're turning off your heat because you don't want to spend so much on your hydro bill. Like, I don't feel like that's ideal. Some people don't mind, but I mind. Okay, like you guys, no matter how much cold you like, the cold here will humble you. Okay, when you're seeing -45 outside, do you really want to be turning off your heat because, like, okay, let's try to save energy, like, so like, that's just rough play. Okay, so please, like, I always advise people, if you feel like you cannot really afford it, or if you feel like you're on a budget, look for apartments that, you know, include heat and water as part of your, you know, utility bills. Okay, like, you don't ever want to have to, you know, worry about all of those. I'm not saying that we should be wasteful, you know. I mean, you know, if you're not in a room or if you're not in a space, try to turn off the lights, you know, when you're living, even if, you know, you feel like your hydro bill is free or whatever, or you feel like you don't have to pay for it. Like, if you're not in that space, you're not using the space, just turn off the light. Like, it's not going to remove hair from your skin, right? But please, when it comes to hydro, when it comes to winter, that's on another level. Okay, so I don't want you to worry about that. So please ask for the utilities that are included. Of course, depending on the city you're in, most landlords are, you know, nice, especially when it comes to renting. Most landlords would include water, hydro and heat. So hydro and heat are 2 different things. Hydro and heat are 2 different things. I just have to break that down for you guys because it took me a while. In Manitoba, for example, we have water, we have hydro, and we have heat. When you say hydro, you know, some people feel that's water. That's not your water bill. Like, that's your electricity. Like, that's electric bill. Okay. And when it comes to heat, heat is like heat. Heat is heat. I don't know how else to explain that, but pretty much your hydro bill is like your electricity bill. I don't know if that helps or if you understand that, right? So we have water, hydro and heat, right? So heat is, especially, you know, heat is mostly for the winter, right? Like when it's cold, you need to heat up your place, right? That's heat. And the hydro is your regular electricity, and then you have your water bill. So if you cannot get any utility as part of your bill, okay, please just ask for heat and water, and look for a place that offers heat and water. Again, there are places that do and there are places that don't. Okay, another thing that you can ask is, you know, what appliances come with the space you're trying to rent. In Manitoba, for example, most places come with a stove and a fridge, and, you know, the little fridge are the ones that are usually attached. So those are, you know, appliances that you would find in almost any apartment that you're trying to rent out. Okay, some apartments go ahead to add like a dishwasher, some add like a microwave, but not all. And then in some apartments you can find, you know, the washer and dryer in suite, but not all. Okay, for the apartments that don't have washer and dryer in suite, most times they have like a central one on one of the floors, you know, where everybody in the apartment building can, you know, access, right? So if you're not comfortable sharing with the whole, say, apartment, right, then look for the apartments where they have the washer and dryer in suite, and, you know, you should be fine. Okay, so back to talking about houses and renting a house. With an apartment, you're most likely going to get, you know, your stove, your fridge, and most times your basic utilities. Some apartments will cover like your heat, hydro and water, right? Some would cover just heat and water, right? With a house, most times you have to pay all those utilities yourself, right? That's the difference. And that's why I said sometimes, you know, in as much as with the house you might get more space, you know, you have more room, you have more open space, you know, for, you know, a larger family or for more people to stay in, just also factor in you have to pay, you know, those bills. So let's say person A wanted to rent an apartment for 1.5 and person B was renting a house for 1.5 as well, right? The difference is, in most situations, person A would just pay the 1.5 and probably they don't have to worry about the heat, hydro and water, right? While person B would have to pay the 1.5 and pay the, you know, utility bills, you know, extra, right? So that's something that you need to have at the back of your mind. So if you feel like you want to rent a house, ask if the landlord is going to be covering your utility bills. Some landlords would, right, but some wouldn't. Okay, this is just something you need to have at the back of your mind so you know what you're going into, right? Okay, I'm going to be discussing more about the utility bills in the video when I talk about, you know, buying a house and, you know, everything about buying a house. Okay, so please keep an eye out for that video. Another question to ask a landlord is if the space is furnished. Sometimes you could see posts online, say on Kijiji or Facebook Marketplace, and then you see furniture in the house, right? Please don't have imaginations, okay? Sometimes they just do staging to, help you have an idea of what the space could look like or what the space looks like, after someone has moved in, right? Anyways, ask if the place is furnished. Most of the times, apartments here are not furnished, okay? So if you're moving from one apartment to another, you have to carry your mattress, your furniture, like please just carry everything and be going. Of course, you're not going to be going with the, appliances that came with the house, right? Because it doesn't belong to you. But yeah, most times you have to go with, all your stuff. So it's just something that, you need to pay attention to. However, it's good to ask because you might be lucky to find a space that's already furnished. The only thing is your rent might be more expensive, but I mean, if they already furnished the space for you, sometimes you don't really have much to lose, right? So always ask the questions. There's no harm asking, like it's either a yes or a no, right? And you move on, okay? But yeah, most spaces are not furnished. It's just good to ask because you don't know what you might be getting into, okay? Another thing to pay attention to when looking for accommodation in Canada is accessibility, right? The first thing I'll say is how mobile are you, okay? Do you have a car or are you going to be relying on the city's transit system? If you're going to be relying heavily on the city's transit system, then I feel it makes sense for you to find an accommodation that's very accessible, somewhere where you wouldn't struggle to access the city's transit, because you don't want to be working for 20-30 minutes to get a bus, right? Especially if you live in a place like Manitoba. You guys, Manitoba is cold, and I believe we talked about that in my last video, okay? So please pay attention to all these points when deciding where to stay. You need to consider how accessible it is, how easy it is for you to get a bus or get a train. So it's one thing for you to even be able to get a bus, to get a train, but are you able to easily access grocery stores, clinic, and places that you feel you'll be going to very often, right? If you're a student, you'll be going to school more often, right? So is it easy for you to get a bus to school? Do you live very close to school, or do you live far from school? These are things that you would need to consider, things you need to pay attention to, right? So yeah, just think about how hard or how easy it will be for you to move around, and I guess that would help you make whatever decision you want to make. So guys, that's it for this video. We mostly talked about how you can find accommodation. I shared websites where you can find accommodation, and also things that you need to be mindful of, or things that are helpful for people who are looking for accommodation, especially for people that are coming in from outside of Canada. But this video is also helpful for people who live in Canada, right? So please feel free to share this video with anyone you feel would find this video useful. Like I said, I'll be doing more videos about my experiences living in Canada and things that are helpful for people moving to Canada. In another video, I'm going to be talking about buying a house and everything house related, okay? So if these are the kind of videos you're interested in, please don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you know when I post those videos, okay? Anyways, I'll see you in my next video, but until then, stay safe and stay blessed. Bye.